We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
All right, welcome to another edition of Free Association Radio. This is Robert Phoenix, and I am me, and you are you, and we are here together. And it's Monday, the 4th of November. We are officially and deeply into Scorpio. Who can not feel it? And we've just had the eclipse a day ago, yesterday, the 3rd, and it has been an interesting weekend. We've been dealing with the event at Los Angeles International Airport in what most certainly appears to be another false flag event. We'll get into that. We'll get into that today. We'll look at it. It's kind of frightening, really, to see these things happen, and then to not only see them happen, but each time they happen, they get closer and closer and closer to. And this is a big one. If you look at LAX, the X is like a crossroads, right? And this is a crossroads kind of event. This is a Rubicon moment because they have linked this Ciancia, CIA, NCIA character, Paul, who is also known as Paul, a.k.a. Saul of Tarsus, CNCIA. They've linked him to this whole notion of conspiracy theorists and people that don't trust the government and people that are not into fractional reserve lending, fiat banking, all the buzzwords that we use because, quite frankly, we're tired of these systems of control. And what we're seeing here is we're seeing something that is essentially relegating these types of ideas and these types of concepts into a rhetorical ghetto of hate. And it's not, this is what happens when people start to stumble upon the truth and they begin to see the light and they look around and there is a, for lack of a better term, litany of oppressors that have been working hand in glove for quite a while in order to run the game on a financial and economic level, to run the game on a governmental level, because once you get money, you get power and influence, and that translates into having people in the government do your business, Congress and Senate. And so this is what's happening. People are waking up. There is a revolution taking place on some level, but it's a different kind of revolution that Russell Brand is talking about. And I'm going to talk about Russell Brand. He's not out of the equation. He's not out of the news. He's not out of the loop. I'm about to publish my piece on Russell Brand that I've been working on for 2 weeks now, really, because I have a lot going on in my life. And Russell Brand is like a rabbit hole. And the further you go, the deeper you go, the more that you can kind of dig up and piece together. So we'll talk about Russell Brand today. We'll talk about Paul, CIA, and NCAA. But let's just look at the facts here. This is from USA Today. This is the cover story. It says the American Federation of Government Employees, which represents TSA screeners, says there is no standardization throughout the country. TSA union calls for armed guards at every checkpoint. How's that going to make you feel? How the hell is that going to make you feel? With all apologies to everybody that works for the TSA, because I'm sure there are some decent individuals inside the TSA that are just doing their job to make a living. But if you've ever paid any close attention to some of the people at the TSA, do you want them having a gun? Do you want them having a gun? And at what point does it get crazy and go sideways with one of these guys having a gun? Think of the immense power that's being vested into what is essentially human traffic cops. That's all they are. They're human traffic cops. They're no more important in some ways than crosswalk guards. Well, why don't they arm crosswalk guards while they're at it? Because that's essentially what they are. They're there to walk you from one point to another point. And with everything we've got going on, I couldn't even get a bottle of wine from France to the United States. I couldn't even take a bottle of wine. I mean, they were good at that. They were really good at, making sure I couldn't bring a corked bottle of wine that I bought at the airport in France. But do we really trust them with guns? I don't. I don't trust them with guns at all. This is just the first step. What's going to happen after this is there is going to be a new form of identifying people. And, oh, by the way, there's the Viper program, and this is going to be a call to extend TSA and their reach deeper into our everyday lives, buses, bus stations, trains, subways. Hello, subways. Keep your eye on subways. What happened? We just experienced a solar eclipse, new moon in the sign of Scorpio. And what is Scorpio? Scorpio is the underworld. It is the underworld. That's what Scorpio represents. And what do subways do? They travel beneath the surface of the earth. Subways are the tributaries of the underworld. They're the human rivers of the underworld. That's what they are. So smart money would say keep your eye on subways over the course of the next few weeks. I do not like to forecast doom and gloom. That's not what I'm necessarily here to do, but it's a dirty job, and somebody has to bring these things up every now and then. Am I paranoid? No, I'm not paranoid. I'm just somebody who is seeing these patterns over and over and over again. And when we look at the astrological phenomenon, how these things are really timed in a lot of ways to coincide with astrological phenomena, look what happened. We have a solar eclipse, and boom, on Friday's show, headed into the wave of the solar eclipse, we have this event. Now, I saw the event breaking while I was on the air. I was talking to Sarah Nash, and I debated whether or not to talk about it. It's the same thing that happened with Boston. That broke while I was on the air as well. Am I not on the air? Where is everybody today? Where's the chat room? Is there nobody in the chat room? Can anybody hear me? It says I'm on the air. Where is everyone? Let's go over to, I want to go to Facebook. I got to find out where everybody is. Normally I've got a bunch of people in that chat room, and there's nobody there. Why is that? Let's see, here we go. Let's see, you can hear me good. Well, that's good. What about the chat room? Hold on, I'm just checking what about the chat room. All right, people are listening. Okay, cool, good. All right. So I went into my Facebook page, just to make sure. Okay, everybody can hear me. Good. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right. Chat room didn't open. Okay, so all right. So try to get in the chat room. Show up there. It's good to know people are listening. Let me see. Let me try this. Let me try to do another chat room. Here we go. And it's great. I should be paying myself 2 salaries, 3 salaries: engineer, producer, and host. Ah, there we go. Hello, 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 chatters. Hello, chatters. All right, let me put that in there. There we go. Hi there. Okay. Beautiful. All right. We're all together now. The universe is makes sense again. All right, so we've got this thing in LA, and are we not getting tired of these things? I mean, and they're getting more amateurish as time goes on. Have you guys seen the fake blood? The fake blood. Have you witnessed that? And also because there are cameras everywhere. Everywhere. Right? There are cameras everywhere. They can track people at any given point in time. When I leave my house, first of all, I'm on my cell phone, so there's a tracking device on my cell phone, and it wouldn't take me very long to cross a couple of traffic lights where they have cameras, or to go to a Starbucks where they have a camera. I'm tracked. You're tracked. We're all tracked. And yet, there's no footage of what happened at LAX. None. We'll give them a few days. They may find some. But there's no footage. Conveniently, the cameras didn't work. Isn't that something? Why don't they invest in some new cameras instead of guns? But I'm being slightly facetious here. So here we go. We've got another thing, and people are just, and what's happening now, right, is that the veil between the threat and the implied threat is getting thinner and thinner. And I'm not talking about the threat and the implied threat coming from the Vox Populi or We the People. It's coming from the other side. Now you have the Southern Poverty Law Center, and aren't they great, folks? They're writing bills in Congress. They're the ones that where you see the guys in the little red vests out in front of Trader Joe's or out in front of, I don't know, the CVS or wherever they hang out, trying to get money to deal with anti-bullying. And anti-bullying is nothing more than a code for more centralized control in the police state. Now, there's a very interesting bullying thing going on in the NFL right now, which I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the NFL a bit today. Even if you don't like sports, you got to hear me out on some of this stuff. And it's going to relate back to some of this stuff with Paul CIA and CIA. But here we go. It's another event, and we're just getting more tired and bored. But yet, the threats are now becoming more and more visible and visceral to the rest of us. Basically, the Southern Poverty Law Center is saying that these are hate crimes and that people that talk about the New World Order or talk about conspiracy theories or talk about the Federal Reserve or talk about fiat reserve lending, fractional reserve lending, these are all going to be classified as a type of terroristic rhetoric and hate speech. This is what they're trying to do. This is how they're trying to shape our dialogue, okay? And it's through events like this where this guy supposedly has a letter on him proclaiming all the things that, that have been talked about on this show and other shows like this. And of course, it pegs him as being a hateful anti-government conspiracy theorist. Okay, we are one fractional event away from making the assertion that people who are not in alignment with the controls of protocol or the protocols of control, We are one fractional event away from having a broadside against a certain group of people and calling them anti-Semitic. That is going to be the next step, okay? We are people who are basically saying no to the program, right? They said, look, we've had enough, okay? You guys are ramrodding us. You're taking away more freedoms and rights and liberties. You're taxing us with Obamacare, even if we don't want it, and we're not getting better care as a result. We're tired of being spied on and listened to. These are the things, right, that people are really tired of, and they want to have some kind of restraint or representation around this stuff. It's not happening with Congress, it's not happening with Senate, because people have their hands in their pockets and vice versa, right? So what's happening now is that it's getting closer and closer to marginalizing a large segment of society as either being racist, sexist, anti-Semitic, and hateful, okay? That's what it's going to come down to. And the divide and conquer strategy is going to start to winnow out more and more people, and they're going to have to pick sides. And the side that is going to stand up for the restraint in the face of tyranny and to hold on to whatever imagined or so-called rights and freedoms we have, these people, it's going to take a lot of courage to be in that kind of camp, because the general consensus of the Vox Populi, well, not the Vox Populi, but the general consensus of the media and the media control will be heavily tilted towards the other. Think of it as peer pressure and succumbing to peer pressure and not wanting to stand out, not wanting to be persecuted, not wanting to lose your job, not wanting to lose your friend, not wanting to lose your spouse, not wanting to lose your lover. It's what it's going to come down to. People are going to have to decide whether or not their morality and their will and their thoughts are going to be determined for them by a third party. And that third party is going to use and exert a lot of covert and subconscious pressure in order for people to wilt or fold under the heat, under the continued heat. Now, the thing that we have in our favor, and look, all I'm into this for is some semblance of truth, okay? Some semblance of truth. And when we have the Scorpio new moon, and we have the solar eclipse in Scorpio, we're dealing with scorpionic energy. We're getting down, we're rooting down, we're unearthing, we're expurgating these falsities, these demons, these lies, the denial, all the crap that is in the cesspool of our subconscious and our psyche is rising to the surface during this time. It's happening. And when we have an event like this, remember now, this is interesting. Scorpio rules blood, okay? It rules blood. And when we see what we think is blood in that LAX event, what are we seeing? We're seeing the exposition of false blood, artificial blood, synthetic blood, whatever that thing is, whatever that goo on the ground is. I'm telling you right now, it's not blood. If you've seen blood, it's dark, it's crimson. It doesn't coagulate like that. It doesn't. I'm sorry. Even with a blood supply that is clotted up beyond repair, it doesn't coagulate like that. So again, we're seeing this scorpionic modality come into effect, and there's more coming. This is what we have on our side. Ultimately, these things are going to be exposed more and more, but what's going to happen is the quote-unquote other side or the control mechanisms are going to come more face-to-face with using language and rhetoric that paints a certain part of our society and our culture as everything that I've just said, sexist, women-hating, anti-Semitic, racist, misogynist, you name it, okay? These are the labels that are going to come at people who really out of love, okay? It's not out of hate, it's out of love, because I think if you were to go down the line and talk to anybody that's in the chat room or people that read my blog or anybody that's a lot of people that are connected with trying to unearth what's happening now, I would say the common denominator with a lot of these people, they're very loving people. They're not hateful people. What they love is freedom. What they love is their humanity. What they love is their right to choose and to have free will. What they love is to be able to move unencumbered through our world and to share their ideas and their creativity. What they love is their ability to have a life worth living. And it's not at the expense of anybody else. It's not. This is not what it's about. It's not at the expense of another race or another culture or another gender or an opposite sex or whatever it is. These are just people that feel strongly that they're being pushed around and they're tired of being pushed around. And what's happening is that there is an enlightenment and an awareness process taking place as a result of this. People have to know the truth. They want to know the truth. Now, it's hard sometimes to untangle the truth, but that's not going to stop people from looking and trying to figure it out and coming to some conclusions. So this has been an interesting event over the weekend, and it's going to be fascinating to watch and to see this unfold in a way that will either be challenged or unchallenged as a result. And it's almost comical. It's almost a cliche what they've set up with this guy, this face, whoever this face is. By the way, he has sandpeku eyes. If you look at him, sandpeku eyes, 3 whites, classic. It's a classic look, the 3 whites. It's where the pupil, where the white of the eye shows up on 3 sides, side, side, bottom, or side, side, top. It's usually side, side, bottom. It's the look of the psychopath. It's the look of Charlie Manson. JFK had sandpeku eyes. It's also noted that people with sandpeku eyes can meet a violent end to their lives. So here we go. It's a classic profile of a sandpeku visage and gaze looking right back at us with Paul, CIA, and CIA. Now, Russell Brand does not have sandpeku eyes, but Daniel Pinchbeck does. Russell Brand, I've just finished a piece on Russell Brand. It's about 2,500 words, and I hope to put it up on the site after the show. There's a lot of graphics and video that go along with this thing, but I've been thinking about Russell Brand, and after I did this piece, it really just dawned on me that the worst thing about Russell Brand is that he's a cliche. All right? I mean, once you get past the mesmerization and the hypnotizing and the charm and the entrainment, because it happens when he is in front of the camera. He's very good. Russell Brand is a bit of a wizard, okay? Trust me on this. He's a bit of a wizard. However, once you get past all that and you just kind of break it all down, you just say to yourself, my God, this guy is a cliche. Look at him. He's got long hair, and he looks like Jesus, and he looks like Che Guevara, and he looks a little like Jim Morrison. And oh, isn't he anti-establishment? Oh, isn't he just a bit radical? Oh my, I love that. Oh, he's funny. You know what I mean? I mean, he's a cliche, and he's calling for revolution. He is a revolutionary cliche. The most revolutionary thing Russell Brand could do would be to cut his hair. And I'm not saying it because I hate long hair. I hate those long hairs. No, it's not that at all. Wear long hair. I don't care. I used to have long hair. I looked like Jesus when I had long hair, but that was a long time ago. Now I'd look like Jesus' father, maybe. But then that would mean I'd look like God, wouldn't it? And that'd be a little revolutionary, maybe too much. You know what I'm saying. But that would be revolutionary. Cut your hair, man. Why don't you shave? That'd be really revolutionary. How revolutionary would that be? Oh, man. But guess what? He'd lose his revolutionary look. He would look, because why? He looks like a revolutionary, right? Isn't that a cliche? The real revolutionary angle would be cut off the hair, shave the beard, maybe get married, maybe even have a kid. Hey, wouldn't that be a revolutionary concept? To me, that would be something that would shock people. He could still say all the same things he's talking about if he wanted to, but the package would look a lot different, wouldn't it? It certainly would. Now, at some point in time, he'll do that. He will do that. Why? Because he's a Gemini, number one. He will have to change the persona at some point in time. And also, let's say he continues to be on this revolutionary path and he winds up becoming even more famous. There will become a point in time when Saturn moves into Sagittarius, which is next year in 2015, not 2014, 2015. I'm already into 2014. In 2015, Saturn moves into Sagittarius. It hits his 10th house. It's a big moment for Russell Brand, but it will also conjunct his Neptune in the 10th house. And that Neptune opposes his Sun, which means that he's going to have to rethink his identity. Neptune in Sagittarius, he's going to rethink his truth, his personal truth, his eternal truth to some extent, because Sagittarius rules religion and philosophy. That Saturn it puts the brakes on everything. So Russell Brand in 2015, 2016 will have a true come to Jesus moment or come to God moment. He doesn't know it yet, but it'll happen. Now, maybe it'll be great for him. Maybe it'll just be a segue from where he is now to what he'll be doing. My sense is that it'll be much different. And then I think that he will revisit everything that he's talked about and everything that he's put out and put in front of the public. Now, this is not some kind of flash in the pan, temporary situation. He has been placed into this position, and he's bringing along a group of people now that are well-versed in the process of revolution, intelligent people. He's buddies with Daniel Pinchbeck. And Daniel Pinchbeck, you may be familiar with Cracking Open the Mind in 2013, The Return of Quetzalcoatl. Cracking Open the Mind is about the use of entheogens and the use of psychotropic drugs, hallucinogenics, psychedelics, you name it. And 2012 was very similar, except that 2012 had a lot more of the Daniel Pinchbeck, capital I, in that book. I think both are recommended reading, and 2012 is recommended reading only because you get a sense of Daniel Pinchbeck as a personality. And Pinchbeck just recently came out and said, this is what he said. He said that I don't like conspiracy theory people. Conspiracy theory people like to think that they have special knowledge and are smarter than everyone else. This is what he had to say. And while that is true to some extent, I would say, it's also at a point now where this whole notion of conspiracy theory and alternative research is becoming so popular and so entrenched in our culture. Why? Because it's clear that people are desperately seeking the truth, and they're trying to find out what's going on behind the scenes and understanding the patterns and the cyclical forces that make things happen on this planet. And Daniel Pinchbeck is out in front, basically shooting them down. And what's ironic about that is that Pinchbeck himself also traffics in a very special, specific type of knowledge, i.e. knowledge that comes from any number of philosophers or magicians or sages that he quotes quite freely in 2012. So he has his own relationship to special knowledge. He has his own relationship to having ideas and thoughts and concepts that other people don't necessarily have. Now, Pinchbeck and Russell Brand are working together now. Pinchbeck is going to be writing for the New Statesman. The New Statesman is a policy wag. It is run by the elites. So Daniel Pinchbeck is now writing for the New Statesman, thanks to Russell Brand and his relationship with Russell Brand. So this idea of revolution as it exists as kind of a Fabian socialist workout is very much in play. is very much in play. And guys like Russell Brand and Daniel Pinchbeck are at the forefront. And when I think of it, I was thinking about the Bolshevik Revolution earlier today and people like Trotsky and Lenin. And this is all kind of how it started. You know, it was all ideological. It was all, you know, it was all supposed to be for the people, right? In Russia, it was all down with the people. Let's get rid of the czar. Let's get them out of there. Let's get that old guard out of there. You know, let's have something that we can all share in, and we can have a piece of the action, and we can have a communitarian relationship with all the resources. Sounded really good on paper at the time, but it was just a ruse. It was just a ruse for a small group of people to come in there and steal the assets and put everybody else under their thumb. That's all it was, plain and simple. End of story. And here we have another version of that at a global level where, you know, this is, you know, the 99% versus 1%, the Occupy movement was it's just another iteration of the Bolshevik Revolution, the ongoing revolutionary state that we have not been out of really since the beginning of the 20th century. The 20th century is the century of revolution, plain and simple, end of story. And now we're into the 21st century, and that is continuing on its merry path. I was thinking about Pinchbeck as the new Lenin today. I'd have to go a little bit deeper with that, but it was just a thought that popped in my head. It would be Pinchbeck as the new Lenin and Russell Brand as the new Trotsky. I think that makes some sense on a certain level. All right, let me play some music, and when I come back, we'll talk about some other stuff, and I'll tell you about some baseball and some cool things that happened over the weekend. Why don't we have, what do we want to play here today? I want to play Wasteland. This is Ari Oakland. This is Wasteland. 5 minutes, 40 seconds. Love this track. Shout out to Ari Oakland. God bless you as you get your psychiatric nursing degree and more. Here we go.
The smoke-filled horizon begins to fade. Along gutters littered with the residue of the lives washed away. I hear the subterranean moans of living dead whose ghosts walk on barren streets. Like the welted youth, they bend their head and hang towards the feet. Trudge along, and I wander through the wasteland, and I've seen all those precious lives torn down, and I was torn down in my pride. And in the back alleys, the dead lose their bones. And howling they holding the heavy hearts of stone. Coming closer are the lost souls chained by despair. With time's wings chariot at their back, they're driven to their labor's care. And as I'm sifting through the ruins of my past, and the pain that can't be forgotten, in desolation's garden, and I'm descending deeper in the dark. And I have wandered through the wasteland, and I've seen all those precious lives torn down. And I was going down in my pride, and forced to face the cold, bitter night. Yeah! As the darkness closes in, I know the pale rider is coming for my soul. And struggling through the death that surrounds, I climb a white ladder onto the scaffold. And watching the empty work of the hollow ghost, I shout, "It's not my time!" With glimmers of the river in the valley below, I'm leaving the wasteland behind. Instead of despair, turn my way. And I have wandered through the wasteland, and I've seen all those precious lives torn down. And I was going down in my pride, and forced to face the cold, bitter night. Yeah!
All right, that's Ari Oakland and Wasteland. Love that saxophone. So it's been an interesting weekend on the sports front, and maybe we can actually make some connections here between the wonderful world of sports and what's been happening in the other larger world of human sport, or the sport of being human. So just this last weekend, there is a coach for the Denver Broncos. His name is John Fox. And John Fox was off because every team in the NFL has what's called a bye week where they don't play. And they get to do something else for that week. John Fox decided to go to North Carolina, which is where I believe he has a home since he was coach of the Carolina Panthers for a number of years, and play in a golf tournament. He collapsed during that golf tournament, is hospitalized, and is now going to have some kind of procedure done with his heart. And that was just on Friday, I believe. And then on Sunday night in Houston, Gary Kubiak, who used to coach for the Broncos, now coaches for the Houston Texans, collapsed as he was walking off the field at halftime. And it was kind of scary to watch, actually. So we have two coaches that have literally just collapsed and not been able to finish out whatever it was they were doing. Fox was golf and Kubiak a football game. And they checked Kubiak for they checked him for any kind of heart attack or stroke or anything along those lines. And they couldn't find anything, but he complained of being dizzy and lightheaded, which is something that John Fox complained of as well. Now, they're not alone. I've been tracking this for a while with people in pro sports, going through these strange dizzy spells and feeling lightheaded and having, some form of vertigo, which it sounds like that's what happened to Gary Kubiak. I'm surprised he didn't just throw up on the field, by the way. He was in severe pain, too. But about 2 years ago, Coco Crisp of the Oakland A's went through this. Joey Votto, who plays for the Cincinnati Reds, went through something very similar. You have a coach up in Minnesota whose last name happens to be Kill, and same thing on the sidelines, collapsing, heart issues. There was Rodney Stuckey from the Detroit Pistons, very similar stuff. Something is going on with pro athletes and their health, and this is not necessarily any kind of garden variety ailment that they would be suffering. Something is in the environment, and that is completely screwing these guys up. And I think it has to do with chemtrails, because I think that's a common denominator. There's something with chemtrails. I know this sounds crazy, paranoid, but it's the only thing that makes sense to me. There's some people who have been talking about cesium and Fukushima. I've been tracking this pre-Fukushima with people in sports, pre-Fukushima. And one of the guys who suffered this quite early on is a pitcher by the name of Billy Koch, who pitched for the A's. He used to be able to throw 105 miles per hour. And he wound up becoming a shell of his former self. And he was an early kind of victim, or somebody who claimed that they had Morgellons. And it screwed everything up about their life. They had lost their ability to have motor control, motor function. Billy had all kinds of other symptoms, and he was out of the major leagues about 2 years after he figured this out. And nobody's heard from him. Apparently, his wife and his kids have experienced similar symptoms. Now, I'm not saying that Kubiak and John Fox have Morgellons, but I am saying that there's something that's going on a neurological level that's affecting people, and these coaches happen to have this occur to them in the course of about 72 hours. So it's fairly high profile. And again, we're dealing with Scorpio, so we're dealing with blood. Blood. What's in the blood? What's coursing through our blood? What are we sharing our bloodstream with? Are we completely organic at this point? Is there a synthetic consciousness that's battling for control over our autonomic system? If you look into chemtrails, you look at some of the things that they found in chemtrails, including nanoarrays, nanobots, little machines. It's quite possible that we are really dealing with something much bigger here. That it's not just some kind of free radical in the environment, or it's not just, a cloud of cesium, or it's not just something from the Gulf that's moved northwards into everybody's bloodstream in biology. But maybe it's something along the lines of a battle going on inside of our bodies between organic matter and synthetic intelligence, and having an impact in a way that Western science and modern medicine cannot comprehend, because there's no scale for it. There's no chart for it. That there is a type of malady or disease or even virus that we're being inflicted with that has absolutely no relationship to anything that's gone before it. So I've just been thinking about this kind of openly now for a while, and these two events with Kubiak and John Fox seem to suggest that there is something very unusual taking place. This is not run-of-the-mill. This is not business as usual. There's somebody who is a good friend of the show and a good friend of mine who's been going through something very similar over the course of the last month. Extreme weight loss, kidney failure, vertigo, dizzy spells. And I hate it sometimes when this stuff gets explained away as ascension symptoms. That bothers me. That completely bothers me. It's, it's like, are you kidding me? This is supposed to be good for me? It's like I'm ascending. What am I ascending to? Am I ascending to hell? Because I feel like it. This is one of the things about the New Age that bugs me, the ascension symptoms. No, ascension symptoms are not a sign that you are taking place in some grand collective enlightenment. That's not what it's about. It's a sign that you're sick. It's a sign that something is going on inside your body that, for the most part, has doctors scratching their heads, okay? So let's just call it ascension symptoms. It sounds cooler, doesn't it? Ascension symptoms. Anyway, that's been an interesting thing just over the course of the last 72 hours. Another fascinating thing, and this actually kind of relates back to the first part of the conversation where I was talking about the TSA and profiling and hate crime and all these other things. Unfortunately, there is a player, and this is really fascinating. This is like, life is such a trip, right? There's a guy that plays for the Miami Dolphins, and his name is Richie Incognito. Just think of that name, Richie Incognito. And he is anything but incognito today. Because what Richie Incognito has had a reputation of being a mean son of a bitch, a nasty person, and at times at times bordering on vile. Okay, he used to play for the St. Louis Cardinals. They got tired of Zach, and they shipped him out to Miami. Now, keep in mind that the majority of pro football players, the majority of them take steroids. Okay, they take steroids, and steroids warps their behavior. They are consistently angry. Now, I'm not making a case for Richie Incognito's behavior, anything but. But I look at that guy, and I look at other people that have played professional football who were offensive linemen, who were on the juice, and they quit, and guess what? They stopped taking the juice, their diet goes back to normal, and they've lost 45 to 50 pounds. And they're completely different humans. And I guarantee you, Richie Incognito is a juicer. And what happens is that their behavior becomes borderline and psychopathic. Richie Incognito decided that he was going to harass a new member of the Miami Dolphins, a player by the name of Jonathan Martin. And Jonathan Martin is mixed race. He went to Stanford. He was a high draft pick. And Richie Incognito led a campaign inside the Dolphins organization to consistently haze Jonathan Martin. I hate hazing, by the way. I think hazing should be outlawed. I think it's bullshit. It's bullshit. I think hazing dehumanizes people. So whether it's in the context of fraternity or a prank, not good. Anyway, Incognito was leading this. Rookies get hazed. It was season long, but he was taking it to another level. And the reason I know that he was taking it to another level is because the NFL has released his cell phone records, okay? Jonathan Martin kept a record of his voice recordings and turned them into the league. And they're not pretty. They are not pretty. I seriously doubt if Richie Incognito is going to ever play professional football again. Now, he might be a pro wrestler, but he will not play pro football again. And the things that he says on these recordings are contemptuous and vile. And I find it fascinating that a guy by the name of Incognito would have all of this material plastered now all across all points of the media. All the media outlets now have what he said to Jonathan Martin. And I'll tell you right now, it is not a good look for the white American male. Not at all. And it is not a good look in the light that we are dealing with or going to deal with a movie called 12 Years of Slavery. This is just more fuel on the fire of polarization and opposition. And people don't understand, really, that we are in a massive, and I mean a massive culture war right now. And I'm sorry, fools like Richie Incognito, whose emotions are being determined by a chemical, and being a slave to a chemical, and a slave to not just the chemical, but to the system itself, that enables him to take that chemical. Look, it's a dirty secret that the NFL allows players to use steroids. You don't think that these guys are still using steroids? You got another thing coming. Let me tell you, another thing coming. There's no way a human can be 6'5", 325 pounds, run a 40-yard dash in 4.9 seconds, and have a 30-inch vertical leap. There's no way without some kind of chemical assistance. There is no way that players can go through the punishment that they do every week on a Sunday, where they have other people of similar weight, similar size, similar speed slamming into them at full velocity, and not have a chemical agent to help them recover, to help them build their muscles back up. There's no way. Absolutely no way. Because the NFL needs these guys to show up every week. Every now and then, somebody will get popped for steroids. But it's very rare. Very rare. You look at those guys, you cannot tell me that those dudes are not juicing. So now you have a league that encourages it. Why? Because it's in their best interest. Their players get to stay healthy for the most part, or they get to perform at a high level. But when one of them goes rogue, when one of them who has a character flaw to begin with starts to get completely out of control thanks to these drugs, now the NFL wants to take private conversations, theoretically, and make them public. This is a very important thing to remember, okay, because Richie Incognito is being floated right in front of us. Floated right in front of us to show you that there is no privacy. Screw the NSA, right? There is no privacy. The NFL got a hold of his stuff, and boom, there it is. Tried in the court of public opinion, right before our very eyes. He's done. He's done. The theater of hate. He's a bit player in the theater of hate. It's very important to watch this and to note it. Very important. Again, I'm not condoning anything that Richie Incognito has said or done. I am opposed to hazing. I am opposed to demeaning any race, any person, any culture. I'm opposed to it. But at the same time, he's a Frankenstein monster, and the NFL helped create him. And for the NFL to sit back and say, we're going to suspend you and we're going to make your records public is completely disingenuous and hypocritical. Completely. But watch this. This is going to be a very interesting piece to witness. Very interesting. And it all ties back in together with the quote-unquote hate speech that the Southern Poverty Law Center likes to frame now. They're the framers of our morality. We had the framers of the Constitution. We have the new framers of the modern morality It is the Southern Poverty Law Center. Modi's. All right, the rant is over. The mash has been stirred, and I hope it was something to think about. Oh, one final thing. My kids' baseball team had a great game on Sunday, an absolute great game. We managed to finally get a game after three weeks of rain on the weekend. We had a few practices. We played our first game in 3 weeks. The kids were sharp. My pitchers were sharp. And I got to tell you, I absolutely love the fact that the parents have been committed, the kids have been committed over the last 3 weeks to continue to play and finish out the season. It's been absolutely terrific to watch. I was really blown away by their level of play. If we were keeping score, we would have won. And coaching has been one of the best things that's happened to me in the last couple of years. It's been better than I ever thought it could be. And watching the boys get better and watching them grow and bond as a team has been just a little minor miracle in my life. And if you feel like you want to help out our league, we're looking for some donations to help repair the fields that got blown out over the October 12th flooding. You can look up Oak Hill Little League, OHYSA, I think it's .org, Oak Hill Youth Sports Association. There's a lot of information on there which will help you throw a few bucks in the kitty and help these boys be able to play baseball. But it was a really great Sunday and very enthusiastic. Very enthusiastic. We played a good team too. We played a very good team, and we came up on the winning side of the ledger sheet. So that was a good game. Very good game. Very good experience. All right, I'll be back Wednesday with Navigating the Astrological Matrix. We'll get into some post-eclipse effects, and I'm going to have a guest on Friday. I haven't quite sorted that out yet, but more guests on the Friday Firecast coming at you. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. This is Robert Phoenix, and I'll see you all on Wednesday. Here's Philip K. Dick.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.